AVC, back for another video here. I was inspired by Dan from Dots and Loops, who made a video about a year ago titled A Generational Record Battle, where he brought his son in to showcase 5 albums and let the viewers decide who wins. So today I'm including my dad.
Hey there, Michael.
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yep. So we're gonna show five albums, and you guys can choose which album wins, and we'll kind of compare them and talk about them. And here we go. I guess I'll go first. Yeah.
Sure. See what you got.
I have the West Coast Pop Art Experimental Band. This is Volume 3, The Child's Guide to Good and Evil.
I like the title.
Yeah.
Man.
This was on the Reprise label. I don't know how well it's, but yeah, pretty experimental album. A lot of fuzz guitars and weird vocals and some talking sections. It's a weird one. It's the 3rd album by the band. Yeah, it's the only one I own though. But yeah.
Looks deep. Looks deep.
60s classic right here.
Speaking of 60s classics, I know most of you are probably very familiar with this artwork on this incredible album. This is one of my favorite albums from way back when. Mind you, I was born in 64, so by the time I started listening to this album in 1980, 81, it had already been out for many years, and it was already considered a classic at the time, like 13 years on. This actually came out in 67. It has a very interesting, here's the inside art with all the lyrics, of course, very interesting introduction to this album where an alleged alien is interviewed by a particular announcer of sorts, and well, it comes to an interesting end. Let's just put it that way. Some of the greatest songs ever on this album, Little Wing, later on covered by Stevie Ray Vaughan and many others. If 6 Was 9, which is his cruncher, I guess, his rock and roll song. The Wait Till Tomorrow, which is all about the story of my life back in the 80s as a teenager, trying to score weed. And in addition to that, there is, of course, Castles Made of Sand and the title track. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an excellent album.
Definitely probably one of the best album covers.
Mr. Jimi Hendrix. Right?
Yeah. Definitely probably one of the best gatefold covers, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd probably say the Jimmy wins over this album. I don't know. It's a less experimental, I guess, but
right. This is it went mainstream, but at the time this was very experimental.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the Reprise label also.
Right.
This particular copy is in great shape, even though I played the hell out of it as a teenager. It's a little poppy and crackly maybe, but nothing major on it. So
yeah, this is just a late 2000s reissue. The year is unknown for this reissue though.
oh, a reissue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Next up, going to the blues. This is Freddie King is a Blues Master.
Ah, nice.
Now, what's great about this is you have, Freddie on the guitar doing his thing, but it's also, I think the album is really centered around the organ player. And this is on the Cotillion label. This was 1969. It's a great album though. It's if you like albums that are kind of centered around just instrumental work and just kind of organ playing and great guitar work. This is probably my favorite Freddie King album right here.
He is a neglected master.
Yeah.
Not as famous as some of the others.
No, and great label to have him on too. Yeah.
All right, well, the blues genre, I have my representation. This is B.B. King live at the Cook County Jail there is the picture of the prisoners who are listening to Mr. King play his classics. Mind you, this is from 1971, so, okay, maybe they weren't classics at the time, but every day, and I mean every day, I get the blues. That is my favorite blues song of all time. Again, I came across this album in the early 80s. I played the hell out of it. It's on the MCA record, so it's pretty mainstream. 3 O'Clock Blues, Sweet 16, The Thrill Is Gone, which probably ended up being his big hit. This is a live album, so it's just some of his favorite songs. The crowd noise is pretty interesting, as you might imagine. And it's just a great blues album because, I'm going to say it again, every day I get the blues.
Cool. Well, I don't know. I might choose the Freddie King over the BB King, but it's another close one. Yeah.
Well, B is before F in the alphabet, so I could make an argument that just by that fact alone, BB would take it, but
Well.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to have to listen to that album.
Oh yeah, this is a great one. Yeah. Oh, let's see.
What is next?
Next up, we have Neil Young, After the Gold Rush. Favorite of mine. Neil Young was definitely one of the first artists that I listened to a lot. Starting out on CD, of course, and later around 2010 is when I really started going after all of his albums, and I probably have the most albums by Neil Young rather than any other artist. And this is his second album, 1970, also on the Reprise label.
Another Reprise?
It has his classics, Birds and Southern Man, but it also has, my favorite track on the album, which I don't think it's talked about, is Lonesome Me. It's just a really great album. More one of his more softer albums, has like piano and definitely a little more country, but not as rocking. But I mean, it got its moments, like Southern Man, and shows off more of his harmonica playing too. So yeah,
great songs. Great songs on the album. Interestingly enough, the kid, Mr. Michael, I do call him a kid sometimes, born in 94, myself born in 64, we both like music from pretty much the same time period. For example, from 1969, it is this classic, On the Threshold of a Dream, Moody Blues at their height of their powers, all 4 songwriters contributing to this album. It has another spoken word bit, more of an interview introduction to the album, where the establishment is speaking to the young man, impressionable young man trying to find himself. And the first mention of the word computer, perhaps, on an album, I'm not sure. But it has some really great songs on this. Lovely to See You Again. And of course, hey, in great Moody Blues fashion, look at those haircuts. Huh? Look at those haircuts. Yes, indeedy.
Wow, yeah.
And it also has the lyrics, which were very important to the Moody Blues, as they were definite poets of their age. And so other great songs on this, Are You Sitting Comfortably Now? Basically, this whole album, though, is not so much known for its songs as for the album in its entirety. Sit back and just breathe the essence of the 60s.
Wow. Yeah, well, I gotta say, I'm not too familiar with that particular Moody Blues album, but
not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
The Moody Blues, they're British, and so they tend to be very quaint at times. Neil is more of the American. It's more of a grittier guy. I personally probably pick your album over mine, even though this is incredible and amazing. And if you haven't listened to it, you really should.
Yeah, I guess the commenters will decide. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next up,
What do you got?
got MGMT's Congratulations.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I had to pick something. Had to pick an album that I listened to a lot in high school, and this would be it. 2009. You know, one of the first concerts I went to for this album. Yeah, it's just probably my favorite MGMT album. You know, It's Working, Siberian Breaks. There were a lot of great tracks on here.
21st century music.
Yeah.
Represented here, folks. Represented.
Something from the 2000s. Yeah, it's surprising.
All right, well, I'm going to jump to the 80s. And this, although U2 is now world famous and very rich, slightly richer than we are sitting here today, they actually started out with some very authentic music. Some amazingly stark, simple, and emotional, because I like the emotional stuff. I like the emotional music. So this album here, October, my personal favorite. I saw them in 1982. They were touring for this album at the Paramount Theater in Seattle. An amazing show, one of my top 5 of my life, undoubtedly. And I mean, album songs with one of my favorites here, I Threw a Brick Through a Window, and Rejoice. Okay, it is quasi-religious, I will grant you that, but at the time, in my defense, I was born again. So, while there are religious overtones to the music, not undertones, overtones, it comes across as a very straight rock and roll album. It has, of course, October, title song on it, melody, piano, just a beautiful feel to that song. Gloria, which is a famous one, which is, of course, a copy done over and over again. Probably my favorite, Stranger in a Strange Land. Yeah, more haircuts, the 80s this time. So, not as a contemporary as Michael's album here, but relatively recent compared to the other albums so far.
Yeah, a few decades apart, but, you know, both good albums.
Yeah. Right, I mean, there's really nothing that compares to this album. I can't see how you could prefer that one,
yeah,
which
you can't really
nice
compare them
to this one, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a tough one. Yeah, they're different, you know.
It's pretty easy, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And the last album, I chose Miles Davis in A Silent Way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, pull that one out of the hat.
This is Miles's. It's his first fusion album, jazz fusion album. 1969. You know, one track on each side. You know, has to be. I mean, this is a special album for me because like a year and a half ago, one of my teachers told me about this album, and that really jump-started my phase into jazz and more fusion music in the 70s. You know, just an incredible lineup of musicians on this album. You know, you have Chick Corea, John McLaughlin, you know, you have Tony Williams, Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter. This is,
Really? I had no idea these guys were on that album.
Yeah, it's an amazing album. Yeah, this is on the Low Fidelity label. And yeah, just phenomenal.
We'll have to listen to that.
Yeah, it's a lot of build-up, you know, just having one track per side. But, you know, and a lot of people say it's his first electric album, but I know the Files D Kilimanjaro came out a year prior, and that one was his first album that had every instrument
amplified.
Yeah, or just electric instruments on each track, and that was the first time he had done that.
Okay.
So this is kind of his next step forward into his electric career, and yeah, just one of my favorites.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds great. All right. Well, you know, back again in the 80s here, there was this thing called New Wave. This Sugar Cubes album, amazing album because Life's Too Good, title of the album, is not really new wave at all, but it came out during that time period. It's really more of a punk kind of what later became called, okay, I hate this term, alternative. Yeah, anyways, great album. Came out in, I don't know when it came out. Well, 88. Oh my god, this is a modern album here. 88. So I'm going to have to take this one out because I really like the way the record itself looks. See, track 1 to 5.
Oh, wow.
1 to 5, and tracks 6 to 11. This album has Motor Crash, Birthday, which was their quote hit, unquote. Of course, Bjork came out of this band. She was a singer. She was less operatic at this time, I think is the way to say it. Delicious Demon, another great song, Blue Eyed Pop, and of course the classic Sick for Toys. So, and this is of course Icelandic. See them with the ancient runes there,
Wow.
pictures of them with the ancient runes. RUNAS, of course. Life's Too Good.
Yeah, I can't say I know that one too well. You know, another hard comparison right here.
Okay, these are very dissimilar pieces of music.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Miles is classic, and I mean, you're cooler than I am because I've never heard that album. I mean, I think I knew it existed. Well, no, maybe. No, I did not know it existed. But on the other hand, this has a dynamicism, the energy, that the Sugar Cubes had way back when in 1988.
Well, I guess the audience will have to decide who won this. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed watching, and I hope you learned some new albums to listen to. And yeah,
It's just the love of music, people.
there we go. That's it.
And you can cut it however you want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah!
I'll leave that in.